But Favreau has denied rumors like this. He said, he told Esquire Middle East, I take full responsibility. This was just, I think, last month, maybe early this month. Yep. Take full responsibility for everything people like or don't like in the show. There's no outside pressure on me from the studio, Lucasfilm, Disney, anyone. He does say there's pressure from within on whether or not something feels right. We challenge each other on whether something feels like it's authentic to Star Wars, if it feels like it's consistent with things that came before. That would not have anything to do with like, oh, we're making you reunite Din and Grogu.
Vespas.
Or the Vespas or stuff like that. He said, a lot of what you're seeing is us embracing the complications that come with the choices that we make in our storytelling. He goes on to indicate that the whole idea, I think this is an IGN interview. IGN Middle East. He's talking to a lot of Middle East outlets, apparently.
It must have been when he was on tour over there for some reason.
Yeah, maybe. But then he confirms that, or he explains why he had Din and Grogu reunite. Is a very particular set of circumstances where we were not on the air for 2 years, and that amount of time we wanted the amount of time to pass in the show. But he basically says that there's like a dynamic, and the two characters weren't fulfilled when they were apart, so he had to bring them back together. Yada yada yada, which like is just the most bogus BS answer I think I've ever heard. Because the only way that you would think that those characters were not being fulfilled is because you wrote it that way, and you can change that writing any way you want. You put that into the Book of Boba Fett. If like, I guess that's the argument he's making. He wrote that into Book of Boba Fett, but again, I don't think that you could have had him be fine staying with Luke, and he didn't need to having this sorrow or this lack of fulfillment because he's not with Din and Din's not with him. Utterly ridiculous. You wrote that, has nothing to do, because these are fake characters, and the people writing them are the ones that are putting are creating their emotions as well.
Let's say this, okay? That they push this envelope with Grogu's attachment to Mando, and Mando continues to visit Grogu while he's going out and doing his thing. So he's sort of like a dad that has to go to work for a few months at a time and come home, like a merchant marine or whatever, you know? And in that regard, you have that go on. And then when he comes home, he finds out from Luke that the kid's distracted, being away from him. The kid keeps thinking about him. He won't embrace the training fully. He's being corrupted. And this worries Luke because this is how he came to understand his father's fall from grace. So you have a nice parallel. Remember how what's his face there?
They do that. That's the point. That's pretty much how they have it written. They don't.
Yeah, but it's not stretched out. That's the thing. They didn't stretch it out. They should have had Mando go out, have adventures without Grogu, and come back, and Luke tell him that while you were away and the audience was away, we have these months at a time. I can't break his attachment to you. And then you have a bit more. You don't have him choose like an idiot. You have them have a longer conversation, and maybe Luke learned something from this bond, so that you have things that continue to repeat. But then one chain is broken. That having love for another, be it platonic, be it familial, is okay. It's when it burgeons into passionate, I will destroy the world for love, that it needs to stop. And then we have a nice correction for Luke headed into this new trilogy they're trying to make.
No, I think that would have worked as far as the Luke learning that stuff. I don't think he needs to learn that, though, given the fact that was the lesson he learned with like wanting to redeem his father, forgiving his father, and kind of giving that whole confession scene at the end of Return of the Jedi. But that would have just reiterated that and shown that the people of Star Wars actually recognize that is indeed what happens at the end of Return of the Jedi, because apparently people don't realize that, at least people working at Lucasfilm. But I think that would have been a lot better. And again, it's kind of what Nick was saying yesterday, is that you need to, when he was talking about the episode 3, kind of splitting that up, you should have done a little bit more of that, I guess, in the Book of Boba Fett. But again, I wouldn't even say that should have been done in the Book of Boba Fett. That should have been done maybe in this season. And that's the kind of story that you tell, is make it more episodic, but then have the overarching thing where Din is kind of going back, or Grogu's wanting to speak with him, and you have the conversations with Luke and meeting and stuff like that, and sharing this bond, and how Luke realizes, hey, you guys need to still be together. I'd like to maybe, and then because Din has the Darksaber at this point, right at the end of season 2, he has it. So you bring in Din for training with Luke to learn how to wield the Darksaber properly.
And
so
then
there's a lot of things they could have done
there. Trio. You have a proper trio set up. You have the Mandalorian, who is violence focused. Like, his results come from the tip of his gun, the tip of his spear, sword, however you have it. Then you have Luke, who is balanced, who has been the hood ornament for the light side of the Force now, and is trying to rebuild the Jedi Academy. So you have Mando trying to rebuild his culture, and Luke trying to rebuild his, and Grogu being the thing caught between both worlds. That is a fantastic setup for season 3, as two of them, not directly, but indirectly, battle for the heart of this little character. Nope, we're not going to do that. We're woman power now.
Right. You would have to have, that would be the overarching plot of the series. But again, what Robert's saying, man, it was supposed to be a bounty hunter. Where's the bounty hunter series? That's when you can actually start showing the bounty hunter stuff. So he's out still doing bounty hunting missions. He's doing that stuff. And so you kind of have that kind of
have Luke go with him, right? Wouldn't that be cool? Luke doesn't participate, you know?
Maybe he goes with him on a couple of missions that are actual, like, legitimate, morally
screw with ex-Empire stuff.
Because then you could have stuff with Mando, obviously, or Din, whatever you want to call him. Kind of, he's taking on more seedy missions that maybe lend a little bit more to the dark side and stuff like that. And Luke has to kind of like step in, and that's a lesson that he needs to teach Grogu, and Grogu needs to learn, except like that. So you have like conflict there between Luke and Din as well on how they live their lives.
Picture this,
stuff like that. But Disney would never do that.
Picture this.
Ever.
You've got Palpatine in his space sarcophagus, right? And that Project Necromancer, all the tubes and stuff, and they're draining all of the Jedi they've got in Ember into him, right? That's what they did with just picture this. It's all happening.
I guess
Luke sees this, right? Luke sees this. The Mando sees this. They both pull out their sabers and just start hacking and slashing the entire laboratory to pieces. Explosions everywhere. Force powers being used to rip machines out of the wall. And Palpatine's in there, and you see the life force thing go do 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 do, and he gets up, and Luke has to kill him head on. There it is, the closeout for the Mando series, the ultimate bounty, the head of Palpatine.
Yeah, I mean, Palpatine's already dead though, so
it'd make a nice trophy on the wall. Who's that guy? Oh, that's the Emperor. Yeah. Well, kind of the Emperor, the half-baked version.
Yeah, I think Robert here has an interesting idea, bringing the Hutts. Yeah, I don't understand why we haven't, like, I guess the Hutts were in a Book of Boba Fett, but you could have the Hutts. You had they even have stuff in the sequel trilogy that they introduced in The Force Awakens. Those two like merc groups or whatever. I mean, there's so many seedy underbelly criminal groups that they could have embraced, and they just completely dropped the ball on a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I'm with Robert here. This has like been one of my biggest issues with this show, is that it was supposed to be a show about a bounty hunter on the Outer Rim, and it's basically been the show that's been taken over by Grogu and like the mission with Grogu and getting him back to the Jedi in season 2, and then Mando having kind of this, I guess, fake, I don't know, I guess this internal struggle about doing this mission, and then like, oh, I don't really like these people, so I need to go get this guy because I don't really know what they're going to do, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. That I don't even think that they did that very well on that internal struggle. I think they did it better in this season, actually, for as much as this season sucks. But with Pershing, I felt his internal struggle was much more interesting and compelling than Din's internal struggle of turning over Grogu and then deciding to go back and infiltrate him. As much as I enjoyed the infiltration and the action in that, I actually thought that was really well shot and done by Deborah Chow. Was probably I think that was the best episode, when it's just him infiltrating the Imperial, I guess, headquarters there on Navarro.
That would be a really cool show they should have done. That's what the cool show they should have done was. Right?
Yeah, it shouldn't even been about Grogu, though. It should have been him going in and just like infiltrating some Imperial headquarters to take out some Imperial, because he's taken on a bounty from a New Republic. And their forces have been stretched thin. They can't get out to the Outer Rim, and so they're contracting with bounty hunters to do stuff like that. and that's what that infiltration and mission should have been. Something like
no,
that.
the Doctor, like make Mando a bounty show, sure, but the Doctor show would have been a far, far better idea than embracing this weird, not exactly a family message that they're trying to push poorly. The intrigue and whatnot, it would have been right up on there like a television series 007 show.
I think that's what they're trying to do with Andor, and no one's watching it, so I don't know.
Well, it's because it's Andor.
But that's what I get. I think that's what that's what they're kind of getting at, and I think that's what a lot of people didn't like about that episode. I'm definitely in the minority on people that like that episode. I mean, that is the worst rated episode of the entire series, all 3 seasons.
Wow.
So far. So at least
it is the most out of step, though. That's really. It's like you're playing a keyboard and all of a sudden somebody brings a hammer in. That's kind of what that episode was.
And that was Nick's big complaint about it, is that it was interesting and compelling, but there's no really Din there. It completely takes you away from him and tells a whole different story. Would have been, I think, what people's expectations are to follow him.
It would have been fun if like Mando was hiding out in his apartment. For whatever reason, he had to like stay there, and he was like bringing him food and supplies, and people were getting curious about that and whatnot. And then, Mando has to fight his way out with the Doctor. That you could have brought him in on it, but they just too lazy. They just don't think anything through.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to have some significant setup for that to take place, which they haven't.
Like he broke his arm. Simple. He broke his arm. So he's got to rest.
Well, it could have been something like, it could have been actually interesting where he wants to help the New Republic, but he realizes that they can't do anything. So he tries to send a message off world to a bounty hunter that he knows has kind of been opposed to the Imperials, has at least worked against them. And he wants help basically busting out or something like that. Like that could have been that could have been interesting too, because you could have a political play there. Where he's actively working against the New Republic, even though it's supposed to be the Doctor has like the conflicting struggle
opportunities, man.
Yeah, there's lots of things that they could have done that they failed to do.
Makes me so angry,
and it's just a disappointment. I mean, Favreau did say one thing recently. I guess he spoke to Collider at Star Wars Celebration, and he was telling them that he hopes that this last episode resolves things for fans. I mean, I don't know what it's going to resolve, because there's just so many things that I don't even like. Who cares? What resolution are we even going to get from this?
How long is this episode? 6 hours?
They're saying it's yeah, exactly. I think it's just going to be a normal 40-minute episode or something like that. I know they released it.
Is there a TED talk afterwards to explain everything? Is that what happened? Instead of the concept art, they just have a TED talk from Filoni?
Or Favreau, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, Favreau and Filoni do a TED talk afterwards.
Zero hope that this finale improves anything. It's just again, they need to kill Din. He needs to die, and the show needs to just die too. Even though Favreau has already said he has a season 4 written, but I think it's time for the show to die and end. I just don't see I don't see the point of it anymore. It's just pretty bad. Yeah, how do you resolve dog vomit? I actually know how to do that. You use resolve.